And don't forget, it was President Erdogan that helped very much get rid of a very bad ruler of Syria. That was President Erdogan. And he never wanted the credit for it, but he really gets a lot of credit. Bibi agrees with that. I agree with I mean, I know it. And President Erdogan should get a lot of good credit for what he did. He got rid of some very bad people. And, you know, they've been wanting to do that for 1,000 years with different names, but for 1,000 years in Syria. President Erdogan did it, and we give him a lot of credit. I give him a lot of credit.
On to Israel now. It's growing increasingly concerned about Turkey's expanding military role in Syria. Western intelligence sources saying Turkey in recent weeks has been trying to deploy radar systems inside Syria. If installed, those radars could significantly limit Israel's ability to operate freely in Syrian airspace. Now, the Israeli officials fear the radars would be able to detect Israeli Air Force activity, including strikes in Syria and flights that use Syrian airspace as a route towards Iran. And this could complicate Israel's military operations across the region.
The region continues to develop in ways that are very dangerous. Right now, you have a reviving Ottoman Empire in the form of modern Turkey under Erdogan. He has aspirations and ambitions. Mr. Netanyahu is waging a war for Jewish supremacy over the region. Those are his ambitions. These two powers are going to collide, and they are going to collide in Syria. They're also going to collide at sea in the Mediterranean. I don't think people are paying attention to it. And the fact that Mr. Trump stands up there and says, well, Mr. Erdogan's my good friend, and Bibi Netanyahu is my good friend, and I'm very happy with my good friends is irrelevant. Interests trump warm feelings and affection. That's all nonsense in international politics. Those two states are on a collision course. And to this, you have to add Iran. And he's made it very clear that war with Iran is coming. I don't see how else you could, interpret the comments that he made. So the bottom line is this is a very ominous situation in the Middle East. You have no end in sight in Ukraine. Where else are we going?
Well, we attacked the land for the first time, land in Venezuela. But before we get to that, this is very disturbing. This is Jonathan Pollard, an American and Israeli citizen who's also, according to our colleagues on this show, the most dangerous spy against the United States in the modern era, whose sentence was commuted by Donald Trump, saying, well, I'll let you hear it. Israel will own all of Gaza. Cut number 4.
Our repossession of our biblical land in Gaza will basically set the stage for our future. Why? Because it will show our enemies that if you fight us, we will not only defeat you decisively, but we will take back our land as well, permanently, to make sure that they're safe and secure going forward. And the only way that's going to take place is if we have a Jewish Gaza, 100% Jewish Gaza. As far as President Trump is concerned, look, the man likes winners. There's no question about it. It's time we start acting like one. Rather than asking permission to be one, we should simply act like one. And this is why I firmly believe that just as America has a policy of America first, we should have a policy of Israel Rishonah, Israel first.
Could this represent the attitude of Benjamin Netanyahu, who hugged and kissed him when he got off a plane when Trump commuted in Tel Aviv, when Trump commuted his American sentence?
Oh, undoubtedly. I think he's speaking for a majority of Israelis. The sad part is that we are not an American first administration. I wish that we were. If we were an America first administration, we would not be involved in the vast numbers of things we are. He's talking about the extension of the policy of mass murder and expulsion. That should not surprise anybody. We've had a pause. Why are we having a pause? And why is that pause now about to end? We've had to have a rebuilding of missile arsenals, missile defense arsenals, munitions, and so forth in Israel. The same thing has happened in Iran, which is why we're now once again on the road to war with Iran. The various parties have largely recovered from the previous 12-day conflict. That's the truth. And what he's saying is not anything about America first. I mean, listen, again, I think we're an Israel first administration in Washington. I see no evidence for anything that's remotely America first, because our interests do not drive us into wars all over the world. They simply don't exist, particularly given our fragile economy. But this is where we are, Judge, and it's unfortunate to me that the man continues to retain some sort of American citizenship. I think we've reached the point in our history where the question is going to be, are you an American or are you not? He's not. He's an Israeli Jew. That's his identity. We've got to start telling the truth. Who are you? What do you believe in? And what do you want? And what he's stating is factual from his standpoint. And they don't care how many people have to die in the Middle East for them to have their Jewish supremacy over the region. That's the fact.
President Trump claimed last June that the United States obliterated his phrase, or his word, all of the Iranian nuclear capability. The Secretary of Defense, who calls himself the Secretary of War, used the same word. I guess they're going to walk that back if we're preparing to attack Iran with the Israelis. That was probably discussed at Mar-a-Lago yesterday.
Remember that President Trump is a marketing genius. He's one of the world's greatest salesmen. Whatever else he is, that's true. And whatever he does is always great. Whatever discussion he has on whatever phone with whatever leader, it's always positive. It's terrific. It's super. So what was done the last time around was amazingly effective. Anyone who suggested anything else was immediately shouted down and invited to leave the room. But it wasn't. It was another temporary ceasefire. The Israelis needed it. The Iranians were willing to go along with it for their own reasons. That temporary ceasefire is at an end. These things will be resolved with violence. That's the bad news. And we don't seem to understand that these things are not questions of an existential nature for us, right, but they are for Israel and they are for Iran, and increasingly they are for the Turks. When you put these groups together, you're going to get massive killing. It's inevitable. The question is, what are we doing in it? How do we benefit? What do we get out of it? Now, let's be frank. I read just recently that President Trump's personal wealth has tripled since he took office. I suppose that has something to do with his family, with Witkoff and others and their children all running around in Qatar and then the Emirates collecting cash. But the American people don't benefit. There's nothing in it for us. That's the problem.
Colonel, is the American empire collapsing?
Yeah, I think you're in the late stage of an empire. And unfortunately, as your financial and economic wherewithal diminishes, it's historically accurate to suggest that the faltering empire turns to the use of military power to rescue itself or arrest the decline. It's not going to happen, and it's a waste of time, and it's counterproductive. But it's something that leaders, and President Trump is no exception, turn to out of desperation. And I also think he enjoys this. Remember, one of the things that's very clear with President Trump, he believes that bullying others works.
Colonel, I'm going to guess that you are not optimistic for peace in 2026.
No, in fact, I think 2026 is going to blow the doors off of the airliner we call the United States. It's flying through very, very bad weather. And I don't know how it ends, but I still think we failed to look at the economy. We don't look seriously at our financial system. McKinsey put out an interesting report, talked about globally $600 trillion worth of wealth, and then made the comment that the wealth is is not real because it doesn't rest on a foundation of productivity. That's particularly true for us. But when you have this kind of inflated market, inflated assets, that benefits the top 1% enormously. And that's the problem. The top 1%, much like President Trump, is increasing their wealth dramatically with each passing day. The rest of the population is on the downhill slide into poverty or worse. I think that's where we're headed, and nobody seems to want to address that. Instead, we sort of tell ourselves fantasy stories. Oh, trillions are pouring into the country. Everything is coming up roses. Everything's getting better. But Americans aren't stupid. They don't see that. And none of the military operations that we're engaged in are going to help us at all.